Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Hope you had a great weekend. Saturday was what? It was the 10th anniversary of Taraba State University, and it happened to be the maiden convocation speech, convocation of the university, and General T.Y. Danjuma, retired, a multimillionaire, a former Chief of Army Staff, a former Minister of Defense, in his speech had astounded many when elder statesman that he is, and many have been saying, sure, he's among the set of officers and gentlemen that we have. But I don't know if an officer and a gentleman also has to be a diplomat. But if that is the case, then that wasn't in evidence on Saturday, because the retired general said some very, very powerful things, no less of which is that if anybody is waiting on the Nigerian army to prevent the killings, then you will die, all die one by one, referring to people in his native Taraba state. And then he called for people to defend themselves to stop the killing. You can't depend on the Nigerian army. The Nigerian army, so said the retired general, is not neutral in the matter. So you can imagine this would have thrown everybody in a tizzy. Not just what was being said, but who was also saying it. I guess it's like when former President Obasanjo decides to speak. So this is, in that same line. They're both, high-ranking military officers. They're both elder statesmen. They both have had a part in the shaping of this country. They both have had a part, these two gentlemen have a part in running the affairs of this country. And certainly, you won't expect that when they were in charge, that they would have appreciated anybody asking any section of the country to take up arms and defend themselves, because the Nigerian army will not defend you, and indeed cannot be depended upon to do so. And then further alleging that the Nigerian army colludes with bandits. Well, you know it. It's not news by now. You also have heard the news. I understand social media has been, agog. So, well, my guest, Dr. Tunji Abayomi, is a constitutional lawyer, is a professional in politics, and he keeps an eye on the polity. And by the way, congratulations, Dr. Abayomi, for your recent appointment as Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council at Adekunle Ajasin University.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Having served in very prestigious and high offices of the land. And what I think is even more disturbing is not, in fact, the question of asking people to defend themselves. The law allows people, citizens, to defend themselves. I mean, the only thing that the law says is that provocation must not be provoked, but self-defense is a right that is guaranteed under law. If a man comes to your house in an attempt to cause bodily harm, you can defend.
Sure.
However, when a man of his stature says a national army protects what he calls ethnic cleansing and a threat to human life in the country, that's a heavy allegation, and it's perplexing.
Indeed.
In all ramifications.
And well, as you've said, and as everybody knows, General T.Y. Danjuma retired, is a highly respected individual. I've said he's an elder statesman. The army was towing that line in responding. If it had been anyone else, they would have picked him up. The security services would have, swung into action. But as with former President Obasanjo, his brother general, they were, really treading on eggshells all around it. We don't want it to seem as if we're, taking up issues with a respected elder statesman. And if it's a respected elder statesman, then you're asking people to disregard his views. there's something of a contradiction in there. It seems to me that they're trying to find how to maneuver their way through all of this. Yeah. The Minister of Defense, Dan Ali, has said that it's uncalled for. It's about as strong as he got. Why do you think people are walking on eggshells around General Danjuma's statement?
I think the point is that the government, and it should be expected of any government, does not want to heat up the polity. There are issues on ground, definitely. And these issues are delicate. They are of intense delicacy.
Yes.
They touch on ethnic relationship, they touch on religion, they also touch on life. And definitely, these are charged issues in the country today. It is even more so because the president belongs to the ethnic group that is alleged to be essentially promoting and giving, executing what, quote unquote, General Danjuma calls ethnic cleansing. So, in a sense, the president himself is a victim.
Indeed.
You know?
Indeed.
So, I think the effort of the government is essentially to manage the situation in a way that you don't have a situation that is sunk into ethnic tragedy, religious war, or even human confrontation, antagonism, so to say.
So that's why probably everybody else has to be quite measured when commenting on this matter, even though the general himself was not measured. He just put it all out there at the convocation of Taraba State University, which effectively gave him the platform of speaking to the world at an official. Now, all the things that the general was complaining about, especially in Taraba and other rural states, are as they are. But the army, in responding, has said that, look, if you take what the general has been saying, we need to say one or two things. For instance, Taraba state government did not cooperate with the army, according to the army spokesman. It didn't cooperate in what is referred to as exercise Ayem Akpatuma. That's, the operation going on over there. And the army alleges because of its neutrality in the conflict between what it refers to as herdsmen and farmers. Because of its neutrality, the government of Taraba allegedly, according to the army, has not cooperated with it. Now, I don't know the way in which it is supposed to be cooperating, but so you can see that there are issues in there. The army, in trying to defend itself, it has said those kind of things that official corridors normally say. If anybody has anything to say to us or any charge to lay, let him do so through the appropriate channels, probably hinting at the fact that they don't care very much for where General Danjuma decided to put this message across, and as you had said, did not take advantage of what must be his sure access to the president. So you can see it's further complicated by the army saying that the Taraba people are not even complicated, they're not even cooperating with us because they want us to have a biased position. And we, as a professional fighting force, as a professional armed force, are neutral. And that neutrality doesn't satisfy everybody, is the allegation that the army is making.
Well, I do not know what the army means by non-cooperation from the Taraba people.
The Taraba government.
Well,
Taraba
state government. I do not know what the army means. It should operationalize, it should tell us what it means. But the truth of the matter is that, in my view, the Nigerian army is overstressed, overstretched, and I'm not even sure is properly situated to deal with political problem that is complicated by ethnic relationship. The problem, not only ethnic relationship, but also economic problems. I think, in my view, there's so many problems, particularly problems confronting the nation, problems confronting the North, particularly the northern part of this country. And I think that it's important to understand that these are not new problems. Like I said that to one of your colleagues, in 1996, when I was detained in Jos prison, I had predicted at that time in my note, my diary, that the North is going to have problems, very serious problems with its uneducated youths. Because the tragedy of this country, I just have to say this, is actually substantially the North is one big tragedy for this country. Because the elites of the North and the privileged, who are in privileged position, abandoned. They were more preoccupied with fighting the South instead of fighting the endemic neurosis that compounds life in the North. They were more preoccupied in showing superiority, in taking over everything, so to say, instead of actually taking hold of life in the North. Every elite in the will talk of the North, the North, the North. You know, as if the North is a nation, independent of the South, you know, and they fight for that North, not for Nigeria.
Well, even though people say that there's no homogeneity in the North, there's no such thing as one northern bloc. People say that
what this has established, what is even less homogeneous is the poverty and the toil of the North. The poverty, the toil, the wretchedness. How do you have a nation? I don't know if you have been to the North. I went there many, many years ago, and I saw so many children carrying around bowls, begging for food.
Indeed. Okay.
It is shocking.
So this hasn't been addressed through the ages.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Folabi in Ikeja.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Candidate.
Yes.
It really, really saddens me that I was not able to make it. It really saddens me that I was not able to make it to the earlier show where they were giving a lot of misinformation. Because one thing is very sure. Since the army moved in, I am sure I have read on 2 or 3 occasions where some militias and some headsmen have been arrested. So if after that event of arrest of militias and headsmen as regards to Benue situation, Danjuma comes to a graduating student and says the army is culpable of this, I think like what you said, that maybe what the army was trying to refer to as non-cooperation, is that if you look at the incidents, let us look at this logically. When 70 people died, the governor of Benue got coffins and he ceremoniously buried them. When Fulani in the same community were repressed and the Fulani, whatever, had casualties, nobody did ceremonial burials for them. Now, I think that most of these people are expecting that the army will go in and go flush out the Fulanis or the headsmen. It's not only Taraba people that are the casualties here, but what is more happening now is
Mr.
That's where the cooperation is coming from. And when we look at it from this angle, it is because you think that Danjuma is being economical with the truth by saying that
I'm sorry, Mr. Folabi, the line, you know, it got progressively bad. But we did get your point that, one, you don't think the whole reportage is balanced and I think the other point you made was that, you know, people, you know,
that's General Danjuma.
Danjuma was economical with the truth, exactly. Was your expression. Okay, so again, be that as it may, that's the way you see it. General Danjuma still is who he is. Yes. He's a patriot, he's a nationalist, yes. And that is why his speech was so very confusing. Even though there are those who are saying he spoke the way he spoke precisely because he's a patriot and a nationalist, which is even further confusing. Yes. Because you have also spoken about some of the things he said being covered by the law in any case. You don't really need to come and say about you should defend yourself. Anybody can defend themselves, yes. within reason. Yes. But the other things he now put on top, that number one, I think very damningly, that the army, the Nigerian army, is not neutral. Number two, well, related to that, the Nigerian army somehow is given bandits cover. That
if the people should wait
on
for
the Nigerian
protection
army,
of the government, basically.
Quote unquote, you will all die one by one.
Yes, we will all die one by one, which is highly
so it's not the kind of language,
terrifying. That's
not the kind of language that statesmen use. And I'm not too sure why he chose to use that language and why he didn't take advantage of what you have said. We've also made this complaint in relation to former General Obasanjo,
yes.
that why will he not just simply walk up to the president and, you know, have his say?
The question is really, it's not just a question of individual going to the president. They could have gone individually or collectively. For example,
yes.
They are all generals.
Sorry, sir. Let me come back to you because someone has come on the line, so I don't burn too much of the credit. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
And good morning to Dr. Abayo.
Yes,
sure.
Morning.
Uncle Yori, I don't know the yardstick you used in measuring T.Y. Danjuma when you said he's a nationalist and a patriot.
Well, he fought to keep Nigeria one.
You see, patriotic by calling out on Nigerians to take up arms. Is that how to be patriotic? Is he being nationalistic by going to the Niger Delta to own oil blocks at the detriment of environmental degradation that has led to the death of many people in the Niger Delta, and is making money to the extent that he said he does not know what to do with money again? Look, Uncle Yori, this is what you get when people have become above the law in a country and have become untouchable. As we speak, the former president of France, Sarkozy, is under arrest in a police station for 9 days for some statements and his previous actions when he was in office. As far as I'm concerned, what T.Y. Danjuma has said amounts to treason. He did it deliberately, and they are without facts. And it should not be spared. The government should call him to question. To come and prove these allegations. If it was an ordinary man that made this statement, by now he's already cooling off in the DSS office.
Exactly.
Why is it that when a big man makes inflammatory statements, he gets away with it?
Yeah.
The law should be for everybody and not for some only.
Indeed.
That is my view this morning. All the things he was saying amount to instigating people in the society against themselves, against the government, and you're calling him a statesman. I'm sorry to disagree, Uncle Yori. Good with me.
Indeed. Please disagree by all means. Thank you very much for calling in. I used those words in relation to how deeply invested T.Y. Danjuma is in Nigeria. He fought to keep Nigeria one. So, I mean, but I fully accept, your criticism, Mr. George. Now, what would you say about George's, position? You've said it's a very delicate matter. What the questions that George was throwing up there, why can he not be called to order? Nobody's supposed to be above the law. It doesn't matter whether you're a multimillionaire or not.
In my book, I think State and Citizens, one of the issues I raise is that law in Nigeria is for the purposes of oppressing the weak. And then largely...
That is laws in Nigeria.
Laws in Nigeria.
Are for oppressing the weak.
The weak. And it's
that's not what we teach in our university, Shao.
That's not. But the execution of laws in this country is just a simple process.
One moment, sir. Let me hear from Yakub. Good morning, Yakub.
Yeah, she's very good morning, sir.
Yes, I didn't want to keep you waiting too long.
And then good morning to Dr. Abayomi.
Morning,
sure.
Morning.
It is unfortunately that I did not get through in first program. You see, I quite agree with the last caller, which is George. You see, Chief Yori, we find ourselves in a country whereby our institution is not that strong. Yes. What I mean is that by now, Chief Yori, if this kind of a statement comes from somebody in U.S. or other developed country in the world, I can tell you by now it will have been picked up. But we find ourselves in a situation whereby in a country where some certain people direct the way country is going. Why am I saying that? A caliber of General T.Y. Danjuma makes such statements, Chiviori, telling Nigerians that they should defend themselves by carrying arms. I can tell you, if it is just, let me just use Dr. Abayomi as an example. Make such statements. I think by now, people in the north and every part of the world have been talking this money that Dr. Abayomi should be picked up. I'm not surprised. You see, when you find yourself in a situation whereby the president in place is not doing your bit, and then the way you getting money through the corruption, it is not more coming again. You will try to make sure that the government is going down. Usually, let me say this. By now, I think if Nigeria should go to, we are going to live out of this situation we find ourselves. The government should take the bull by the arm. At least to test the law. At least I underline that statement, to test the law, this plan. By picking up, they should never look somebody's eye. By picking up the caliber of General T.Y. Danjuma and prosecuting him by law of the land. Because reason is this. If the people that in that convocation, we are talking about students here, and then by tomorrow, and then they pick up arms, what will happen, Chief Jory?
All right.
Nigeria will be going to a station whereby Somalia of this world, and then we are almost well under 80 million people in Nigeria. If the crisis started in Nigeria, who is that country that go to absorb us? None of the South African countries that can be able to take us.
Sure.
Chief Jory, let me say this thing lastly. Whether they like it or not, the God is giving power, and then the God is omnipotent at taking power. If God says General Buhari is going to continue in 2019, it will be. If God says General Buhari is not going to continue in 2019, it will be. But the important is Nigerians should listen to this kind of information because it is information that is capable of destroying this country.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yakub. Appreciate your call. Really appreciate your call. He actually introduced that a little bit about 2019 into the whole equation. Yes. You know, so because it's so from left field, this thing that has happened. Until this happened, you wouldn't have, imagined that a man of General T.Y. Danjuma standing, as Mr. George was, very, quite frankly, shocked, maybe even offended at some of the words I used. This is the context in which Danjuma had been known. He had not been known to have any out-of-ordinary quarrel. So what exactly was his objective is the question that needs to be asked.
Well, my source,
yes.
Again, I have said it, this nation is placed on 3 twisted pivots: religion, ethnicity, and region. Those are 3 twisted pivots. And when you place a table on twisted pivot, it cannot stand well. This nation is not standing well. If you look at the tragedy, particularly you look at the north, you talk of the herdsmen, you talk of Al-Majris, you talk of El-Zazaki, you talk of Boko Haram, there's total chaos. That's the truth of the matter. So if we now have fundamental endemic disorder, neurosis.
Because we're going to end up in anarchy, as the army has said.
Moving gradually. And anarchy of a nation just doesn't envelope it suddenly.
Exactly. So why is General Danjuma walking free?
Most pari passu.
Yes. So again, I know it's part of the delicacy of the matter that you spoke about,
Yes.
why the General Danjuma probably is still walking free. Ibrahim Garuba in Jos, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Mr. Abaye.
Yeah, morning.
And you know, I want to make a little contribution, please. Yeah. The most unfortunate thing is that General T.Y. Danjuma is talking to students, youth, whereby we have both Christian and Muslims, Fulanis, and the Jukus, every tribe. So is he telling us that all those students should carry weapons against themselves? That's the issue. And what did he do when so many Fulani people were being killed at the same Taraba? Did he tell the same Fulani people to carry weapons against their fellow neighbors? So when things go around, you know, people say what they feel like saying. We don't know whether it is out of frustration he's saying that. When he was the minister, defense minister during Obasanjo regime, the same thing happened in Benue. Why can't he talk? Why can't he say the same thing that he has said? The same thing in Ozil Uji. It was under his watch. So at least the government of the day, there's the need to be taking actions on this kind of statement. Because to me, this is what they call a prophetic, or it stimulates
well, okay.
action that it will not echo well to our nation.
Indeed.
So thank you. God bless you, Uncle Roy.
Thank you very much, sir. Ibrahim Garuba calling in from Jos. We're looking at the, quite frankly, confusing, surprising remarks of General T.Y. Danjuma, a 79-year-old Jukun Christian ex-military officer and ex-minister of defense. And when we say ex-military officer, was actually in charge of the army, I believe, of the army from 75 to 79. So he knows how it works. Now to wipe that army out, the army was quick to respond and also point out that the army is not just heavily invested, has invested its all in this, and that has actually paid the supreme price for this particular project. And to now be rubbished like this, no doubt the army is feeling very, very bad because they can't just dismiss him out of hand. This matter of different laws for different people, one law for the rich, one law for the powerful, and then another law for the ordinary Nigerian. It's so much in evidence here. Nobody in this country who is not a multi-millionaire oil block owner and all of that can get away with this. And it's worrying that nobody has spoken about him being a guest of SSS or DSS or whatever.
It's a common phenomenon in this country. It is a common phenomenon in Nigeria.
It's common.
That the powerful get whatever they want under the law, and that the weak is always the victim of the law. I remember a case of a rich man who said he reported the case to the police. And that the victim reported the case to the police against him. And he went there, and because he had money, or eventually it was the complainant that was then put, locked up.
Typical Nigerian kind of a scenario, fact, unfortunately.
He now had to work to secure his bail.
I've got to go on a quick break now, but stay right there, please. We'll be right back. Okay, Okay, so welcome back, and we're trying to ponder the question, why would a 79-year-old Jukun Christian ex-military officer, former Minister of Defense, former Chief of Army Staff, why would he wipe the floor with that same army? Why would he call on people to bear arms, to pick up arms, to defend themselves? And perhaps importantly too, why is he walking around free? I assume he is walking around free. But Dr. Bayomi was explaining that, well, that's the way our laws work
yes,
in this country.
Yeah, and I may also say that it's also affirms a fundamental problem that the leadership of the country have no allegiance to nationality or national citizen. And that's a very fundamental problem of this country. That's why, in my view, the problem is not to continue to deal with instant problem in this nation or selective problem. We need to go to the foundation.
Which is what
existence.
Commentators have been saying.
Yes.
Obasanjo has said it in his own way.
Yes.
Other erudite personalities have said the same thing.
The problem is that it's important to understand that it is not a call for the dissolution or destruction of the nation, but a call to ensure that we have a more perfect union. That's what we need to do. However, regrettably, from the voices that I hear from all over the country, it seems to me that quite a number of elites in the north appear also not to support a fundamental necessity to sit down and actually take not a subjective but an objective view. I once said that perhaps the principle that will accord us a greater nation is what I call the principle of the other man. Don't worry about yourself, worry about the other person.
Oh dear.
And then the other person worries about the other person. At the end of it, we worry about one another,
So
the theory of the other man.
Yes, yes.
So
we become a selfless kind of nation
so
that gets a selfless government.
Yes, if we do that, if we are more preoccupied with the theory of the other person, we will be able to demount emotion and be able to look at this nation in a more impartial and de-emotionalized way.
Well,
so we are really in a mess.
It seems so.
We are really in a mess as a nation.
Edward in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, good morning. Good morning, Edward. Edward, are you still there? No, I guess that was my answer. He's not there. Yeah. What the general said at the convocation ceremony, it probably it might be speaking the mind of a lot of people, but the inflammatory way, the incendiary way in which it was put is the other cause for concern. I take everything you say, that if we could only go back to the foundation and address that and get a fairer, more egalitarian, more just society, then 3/4 of all these problems will disappear. But there are forces preventing that, and perhaps that is what is forcing T.Y. Danjuma. It may also
be part of his frustration.
It might well be part of his frustration.
Because if, for example, he feels he's a minority and he's oppressed, an ethnic minority, and he feels oppressed, or his people feel oppressed, and he is a leader of the people, he exhibits the sentiment of the people.
But leaders are not supposed to be like that.
If they are leaders that are committed to national citizens, but I have told you, this nation is not in reality a nation of national citizens. We have a nation of ethnic citizens. And we are talking of rivalry, conflict of interest, essentially tearing the nation apart You understand what I mean?
Now, he has definitely made the job of the presidency a lot more difficult, a lot harder,
yes.
you know, with his utterance, because he's not some riffraff.
I mean, for example, you just see how hard it is. Now, if the army is in Taraba, the perception is that this is the army that is protecting killers.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? In order to succeed, even the army needs the cooperation of the people. In order for the... So, you know, we've got crises.
That's why I brought up the point that he's a 79-year-old gentleman.
Yes.
In other words, he's matured, he's savvy, he's seen it all, he knows the import of words, and then he still chose to use those words. Good morning, Gerald, in Abuja.
Thank you, Uncle Yori. I was about crying, you know, unfairness, injustice, and marginalization for keeping me too long. You know, in this part of the world...
But don't call for arms. Don't call for people to take up arms.
And by the way, should I, you know, point out to both of you, you are both Yoruba men, I am Igbo man. It is because I am Igbo, that's why you kept me for far too long.
There you go. There you go. Okay, Gerald, what do you think?
That's Nigeria. That's Nigeria for you.
Gerald, were you shocked?
That is Nigeria.
Yes.
Let me proceed from that to say this. I am a Christian. I was brought up to be very polite, respectful of everybody, including my younger. How much more an elder? But when an elder forgets who he is, an elder, and descend from the utopian height where eagles fly to begin to pet with children to play, we will tell him the truth. No matter how pained General C.Y. Danjuma is about what is happening in Nigeria today, he is not pained more than me, even though I am from Anambra State. So many are in pain. However, that statement he made with the greatest respect is the height of irresponsibility. That was a very irresponsible statement, and that put a mega question mark on whatever people think he has done for Nigeria. So let me also join the other caller to tell you, Uncle Yori, that toga of patriotism and all,
yes,
I don't see how it befits him. I don't see how he has merited that. Let me go further to say this. V.Y. Danjuma is one of those actually that created the poverty in Nigeria and in the north. And I'm not making it, a flat assertion. The oil well he's enjoying, the stupendous wealth that he has today, the oil well, and the foundation he has formed late hours to assuage his conscience, did he work and merit it? I also go further to say in 1999, one of their ilks at Abdul Salam Abubakar left the country. I know what happened. I was an adult then. I know what transpired. Today, he is one of the mega rich people. At the expense of who? Nigerians. And what is responsible for what we are going through today? Economy, poverty. Who caused it? Atiku Abubakar is one of them. These are the people manipulating, the impoverished, ignorant, uneducated, masses, and then we are having crisis. Now, let me end, Uncle Yori. Thank you for your time, but let me end. What is the substantiation? What is the evidence? See why Danjuma had the whole world, the media facing him. It is okay if you have evidence to make an allegation. He had the whole time in the whole world to say, I think the army is biased, they are taking sides because A, B, C, D. Given how privileged his position is, and I know he still has, his loyalty in the army, he should have facts and evidence to back it up, and today I will be behind him. But to come and make a flat assertion, incense the nation, and make things more difficult, that's the height of irresponsibility. I say it again. He is one of those with his class of the military that destroyed Nigeria. He should go home, enjoy his ill-gotten wealth, and allow us find a way to solve the problem they created for us.
Well, thank you very much. And at least, Gerald, you're putting your submission in quite discreet diplomatic terms. The general didn't have time for any of that. It was almost as if he wanted the most uninformed, illiterate person to understand him, that I want you to pick up arms and defend yourselves. And the point has been made, Yakub made it, I think someone else made it. You're speaking to a bunch of youths, impressionable youths, essentially. Yes. Radicalism and all of that, it isn't always a bad thing, but you go and drop this kind of a seed into those young, fertile minds. You then begin to understand where Gerald is coming from with the conclusion to his presentation in terms of a 79-year-old man, speaking. But he's made the job. This is no doubt made the job of the of those who are running the affairs of this country considerably more difficult. So there's a sense in which people like that can also say there's a political motive. There's a sense in which you are working against Buhari's whatever your conjecture is that his future.
It is bad.
It is.
It is bad business.
Because you now have a northern officer. It's unfortunate we're using these terms. You have a northern big man, and there's a northern man in place, and here you are,
And mind you, it's okay when you are benefiting from all these processes.
Exactly. The South Atlantic Petroleum, that's the company he's chairman of. His wife, Senator Daisy, is the vice chairman of that party. So Nigeria has done plenty for you.
So at the end of it all, Yori, the issue remains essential, fundamental, that in my view, the way this nation is going, it's important for us to grab the nation as quickly as possible.
That's what Obasanjo said, remember?
You understand
you remember? That's what Obasanjo said in his own recent letter.
But that is not in the way he's talking about
No, let me quickly bring in Benga in Abuja. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning, Chief.
Yes,
Dr.
Tunji Abayomi.
Tunji Abayomi.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Yori, you see, the elite, our leaders, our problem in Nigeria. Not the common man that enter the market, that enter bus, Molu and Lagos, or that go to the farm, greet each other. We are not our problem. We are not the Igbos and the Yoruba you meet in the market, or the Hausa you meet at the market. Our elite, our problem. Look at it. This general, the third general, had all the means, as I said, to channel this case, observation, or discovery to the presidency, to who are concerned, even the army or the military hierarchy. He did not do that. President was there about 2 or 3 weeks ago in a forum that concerned all the elders, all the people that matter in Taraba State, both the, the traditional rulers. He did not make this allegation there. You now gather the youth who constituted the old Taraba, because those people...
Well, he didn't gather the youths. He didn't gather the youths.
He didn't gather them.
No.
Those youths,
he went to the university.
80% of them are from that state. 80%, because it's a state university. 80% are from that state.
Yeah, it's just that he didn't gather the youths.
Who and who now will carry weapons against each other? That's what I'm saying. He went there. Who and who now will carry weapons against each other? Because if you look at it holistically, you will see that there's a hidden agenda somewhere against this country by the elite to divide us, to make sure that nothing works in Nigeria. Because this will create more problems that we want to solve.
Okay.
By then you say that everybody should carry weapons and defend himself. The Fulani now, who they say are against the other tribe, whereas there are many, about 20 or 30 tribes in Taraba, who now Fulani want to eliminate or wipe away.
Okay.
Another thing we should look at, Mr. Yori, is that if you look at what has happened before, Fulani also were killed in Mambila and other places. As this general called as a father, as a kingmaker politically in that state, as he called the people together as an elder with all the resources, look, let's settle this matter. I've not heard it and I've not seen it, that this general called a meeting of stakeholders and data to find solution to this ethnic or whatever problem. He has not done that.
Okay.
On what ground is he now accusing this without evidence?
Indeed.
Please, our elite, our leaders, our problem in Nigeria, they are the ones that want to divide us. Not you and I, or people that enter bus or go to Balogun or my 2 market, my 12 market. Our elders are our problem in Nigeria, and we should be wise. We, the common man, should be wise.
All right, thank you very much for calling in. It's this club of ex-military men that do this. I don't know if any civilian could do it and get away with it. But the ex-military men, they've sort of become part of our system, and they, it's like they do what they want almost.
Yeah, but the problem is that the tragedy of the nation itself is that the population, the masses, are emasculated in terms of
what? By
possibility.
Poverty? Yes.
The possibilities. Because, you see, the situation is, I was demonstrating this when I was running for governor. You have people, basically elites, who want to protect their privileged position. That's also why we have endemic corruption. They take all the resources, approximate these resources, and increase the poverty of the poor. They go back to the poor, taunt them with the wealth, which now they call their own personal wealth, although public wealth stolen. They taunt and mock the masses who are desperate because you can't even buy pure water without money. I used to tell stories of a woman who was begging me to buy pure water, to buy mango for 200 naira so that she would have money to buy pure water for her child to go to school. Now, the same masses, when they have the privilege to vote in, to raise their own children, to raise their own children, to work for their own happiness, they will not follow the children because he does not have money. Which money are we talking about? It is the money that is stolen that the rich and the powerful have. They don't understand that. And when you talk about it, you just, they don't understand. It's like the Russian parliament said, the hungry does not understand the language of persuasion. So understand what I mean?
Exactly.
So the complexity of existence in this nation is compounded. I have spoken of 3 pivots.
Yes.
But those 3 twisted pivots standing on a rug of poverty, a rotting rug of poverty. So the only way that I see that this nation can move forward happily is for the different groups to come together for new ideas.
Okay.
So it's not just one thing.
I'm going to take Jude in Ikeja now. Good morning, Jude. Thank you for holding on.
Hello.
Hello, Jude. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I've been listening to the views of everybody. Hello?
We can hear you.
I've been listening to the views of everybody. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I've been listening to the views of everybody.
Okay.
And I've been telling, they've been talking against Danjuma. The views of those who are being killed. Will they fold their hands? We are in our same zones, criticizing Danjuma. And we don't protect those people. They provide solutions. How those people can be protected. Everybody say, criticize Danjuma. That's not the issue. Have you not done this work? If you are in Benue or in Taraba and those places that people are being killed, before their hands and then let them come and kill you again. Let's address the issue. If they come and do this duty, well, in Benue, in Plateau, in Taraba, and all those cases. So if you are in those areas, you keep quiet, you don't defend yourself. Let us address what the government is doing about it. Let us start attacking individuals and look at the issue at stake, not individuals. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you very much, Jude, for calling in. General Danjuma does a disservice to the Nigerian army because he didn't speak about a section, a couple of boys, renegades. No. He said the Nigerian army cannot be depended upon to stop the killings. Yeah. Worse, he said Nigerian army is colluding with bandits.
Yes, those
and
are
worse,
the essential issues.
He said Nigerian army is not neutral.
Yes. If he says that defend yourself, you have a right to defend yourself under the law, naturally. You know what, if you are able to, you defend yourself. Nobody expects you that somebody is coming to kill you and you simply surrender to it. You protect yourself. It is a law, a universal fundamental right.
Okay.
However, when you move beyond that, you accuse a national army of impartiality, of protecting disorder, of protecting criminals. You accuse them of ethnic ethnic prejudice.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? And so on and so forth.
And the army is saying, I pointed that out, that the government of Taraba is not cooperating with them in their current exercise because, the army says, of its perceived neutrality.
Yes, but
insinuating that, well, the authorities in Taraba would like it to have a certain disposition as they go about this exercise.
And even the point is that what General Danjuma is saying, we appear to support what the army is talking about. Okay. What General Danjuma said, we appear to support what the army is talking about. In other words, General Danjuma is saying that you cannot depend on the Nigerian nation to protect you.
Maybe that's what he was saying.
That's basically
because
what he's saying.
Everybody knows that you can't depend on Nigeria to provide the wherewithal for you to do this. So we speak about that. But to now zero in on the army.
So that in a sense, what General Danjuma is saying, maybe it's not entirely wrong. He's basically saying there is no Nigeria that can be depended upon by the citizens. So why don't we then make effort to look for that Nigeria that can be depended upon?
Yeah, but the way General Danjuma is putting it, it comes back to this whole matter about, is the glass half full or half empty?
Yes.
So, you know, that is one of those kind of situations. General Danjuma is who he is. He's a 79-year-old multi-billionaire.
Yes. Who made Nigeria what it is? Who
made Nigeria what it is? I think in the negative one that you're talking about. But this is the man who also put his life on the line during the Nigerian war, civil war, to keep Nigeria one.
But Nigerian civil war, it came as a result of Nigerian civil disorder.
Okay.
Which was also caused because of endemic injustice and problems.
So it's a real complicated mess. Bello, thank you very much for holding on. I'm sorry about that. Bello in Kano, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, Yemi.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to offer my contribution on the subject matter.
Sure.
Seriously, I would like to say that it's quite unfortunate for us Nigerians, because if you look at what is going on, if you look at can you hear me?
Yes, but how is it unfortunate for us as Nigerians?
Because if you look at what is going on now, people, these elites that we're talking about, they are the major beneficiaries of the Nigerian project.
Yes.
They are people who have gone to school for free, who Nigeria have done everything to make them what they are today. You understand? But now, in return, what are they giving us? Instead of them to be concerned about the future of Nigeria, the future of our generation and the generation unborn, they have actually used their privileged positions to enrich themselves and their families. Now that is why I wonder when people complain about marginalization in this country, who is not marginalized? Almost everybody is marginalized. There's nothing like majority or minority, because in the real sense, there are only a few privileged people who have actually cornered the wealth of this nation to themselves without any regard to the well-being and the welfare of the common Nigerian.
Yes.
You understand? So our problem, honestly, is it's like the elite. And secondly, I would also like to say a lot of people are complicit in the security situation in Nigeria, because now the media also is complicit. You look at what is happening across the country, particularly in the North Central. Now, you see there are two sides to this crisis, the farmers and the herdsmen. Like the previous speaker actually said, you know, media is beaming the spotlight on the alleged, atrocities being committed by the Fulani herdsmen. Agreed, whoever these people are, they are criminals. And until we begin to look at the two sides of the coin, we will not be fair to the whole reporting, because in the end, we will be only successful in inflaming the whole situation, because one part will feel like, okay, these guys are victimizing us and they're not giving us fair coverage. When our people, our kindred are killed and our properties destroyed, we're not getting a balanced reporting, whereas the other side will even complain of our reprisals. So if we do anything to them, and the media will now say, oh, look at the killings that have happened in Mambila, like the previous speaker said, and a lot of other things. The media did not really did a good job there, because they did not highlight all those atrocities.
Thank you very much. I've got to interrupt you because we've completely run out of time, completely.
Yes.
So much so that there's much more to be said about this particular subject, because it's a very, very important subject in terms of, our cohesion and not misunderstanding each other. So we'll probably continue with this tomorrow. Dr. Tunji Abayomi, I'm so sorry that we couldn't take this further,
it is okay.
but I want to appreciate.
I just hope that this nation will be thinking fundamentally, how do we make progress?
Exactly.
What theory do we need to set out for the advancement and the happiness of our people?
Yes.
I don't think we have
and we
that
have to be
yet.
wary.
We have that. I don't think we have that yet.
Yes. And if we have elders who can't help us out in that regard,
yes.
Danjuma is 79.
Yes.
It's a very, very delicate affair. Yes. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow. We'll actually continue with this conversation. Till then, I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.